Coronavirus records being smashed left and right as this new wave accelerates, but a happy surprise when it comes to the vaccine supply. Plus, what's in this new stimulus bill that seems likely to pass by the end of the week, and New Year's in Times Square in 2020. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Thursday, December 17th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Good morning, Carlo.
Good morning, Jill. I was a little worried that your famous power outages were going to come back to bite us this morning, but it seems like you're okay over there, huh?
You know what? Knock on wood. This is our first real storm in this house, so we really don't know how it's going to hold up, but we're hopeful.
So far, so good. Hey, before we get started, if you'll let me indulge a very quick PSA, that charity that we talked about I think it was last week, Operation Santa at the post office, the deadline to ship out those gifts for kids is on Saturday. I know that a lot of people wrote in and just said that they wanted to do it. So I'm just letting you know, if you're adopting a letter and you're going to ship that out, you got to do it by Saturday. The little boy whose letter Becky and I adopted, he asked for a dirt bike, but then he wrote in like a little parenthetical at the bottom of the letter that a scooter would be just fine. So I thought that was very cute. I couldn't resist.
Which one did you go with?
We got him. We didn't get him a dirt bike. We got him one of these scooters that all these kids like, I guess. What are they called? Like a razor scooter or something? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
My daughter
got a hand-me-down from her cousins that she loves.
Can't go wrong with the scooter.
All right.
Right?
What did you say?
I just said you can't go wrong with the scooter.
No, everybody loves a scooter. That's great. And he said he'd be good with it. So why not? All right, let's get to some news, Carlo. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, unfortunately breaking records as the coronavirus is currently in a state of uncontrolled spread basically everywhere in the United States. More than 3,600 people died on Wednesday. That's about 500 more than the record, which was set a week ago. 6 months ago, the country was reporting about 25,000 new daily cases. Los Angeles County is now reporting almost that many a day just in that county. Think about that. California is opening field hospitals across the state as hospitalizations continue to go up. And things are particularly bad in that state, which is now clocking more cases than most countries in the world. By the way, French President Emmanuel Macron, the latest world leader to test positive for the virus. Next door in Germany, the Christmas lockdown is now in effect.
Yeah, we are in the bad times here, but we expected this, and we will get through it. A little bit of good news, Jill. I don't know if you saw this last night, but pharmacists across the country are finding that the Pfizer vaccine vials that they're getting actually hold one or two more doses than thought. Which could potentially expand the current supply by as much as 40%. So those vials are being shipped with 5 doses, but some have as many as 7, just by virtue of how the machines are filling them to sort of account for some spillage. And the FDA has said that those can be used. So it seems like a little thing, but when you're talking about millions of these vials, it's potentially huge, right? So I mean, you tell me, but it sounds like a Hanukkah miracle, right?
It's kind of reminiscent of the story of Hanukkah, when the oil was not supposed to last very long and it wound up lasting for 8 nights.
I love it.
Well, yeah, since when did things, Carlo, go better than expected in the year 2020?
Seriously, right?
Okay, congressional leaders have reportedly agreed on the broad outlines of a new stimulus package, with a deal possible as soon as today. The $900 billion package expected to include another round of direct cash payments to every American, likely somewhere in the $600 range, a weekly enhanced unemployment benefit of $300 through March, also part of the framework, as is $300 billion or so for small businesses. Not included, though, funding for state and local governments and a liability protection for businesses. So you basically had that's I guess where they gave up a little. Democrats wanted funding for state and local governments. Republicans wanted that liability protection. So I guess maybe they say, what, if both sides leave the room unhappy, you have a good deal?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I think that, this is better than nothing, and I hope that they can get this done. They are really racing against the clock here, which is why I expect, as I've said, like, nothing is a better motivator than a hard deadline, right? Any high school student will tell you that, and that's what we're up against here with this government shutdown, possible as soon as, what is it, Thursday, as soon as tomorrow. So that's why I think they'll get it done. But they are. This is crunch time. I mean, there was the retail sales data out yesterday, Jill. I know you were reporting on that on Cheddar, showing that retail sales in this country declining for the first time since spring. That's a really bad sign, given that this is the holiday shopping season now, and it's just more evidence that consumers, are not spending as much as the pandemic worsens. By the way, if it does turn out that these are the numbers that are part of this deal, the $600 direct payment, that includes dependents, right? So if you're a family of four, you would effectively be getting $2,400, which is not nothing. I mean, that's a legitimate little chunk of change for pretty much anybody. But I think that the real thing is the enhanced unemployment benefits, that and the money for small businesses like restaurants. As long as that's in there, I'm happy.
Okay, the East Coast in the middle of this really big winter storm. Snow's been falling by as much as 2 inches an hour in parts of the Northeast overnight. New York, Philly, Boston, all waking up to the most snow that these cities have seen since 2016. Flight delays are widespread. Many schools and COVID testing sites are closed. A pileup on I-80 in Pennsylvania involving dozens of cars left at least 2 people dead. And a separate crash in New York City sent dozens of people to the hospital. So needless to say, do not travel today if you do not absolutely have to.
I'm not leaving this apartment. Not that I would anyway, but I'm not going.
I
I'm
feel
not
like,
going anywhere.
why is today different than any other day?
Yeah, I know. I was saying that to Becky yesterday. I was like, oh man, it's nothing like a good snow day. But it's like, is anything going to be different whatsoever? No. Um, yeah, this storm looking like it's going to move out to sea this afternoon. It'll be mostly done by about 4 p.m. Eastern time. If you're waiting to shovel until the last of it. I'd say we have about, I looked outside when I woke up, I'd say we have about 6 or 7 inches here. I don't know about you guys. I don't think we're going to get the foot that they said.
I don't know. It's hard for me to tell because I feel like the wind is pretty strong around here. So
Yeah.
it's I think when I'm looking outside, it's just hard for me to gauge. But it was coming down pretty hard last night, and it was kind of cool because my daughter, this is the first time she's really been able to kind
Yeah,
of
you're
process
right.
what's going on, and it's
Well,
cool
this
to
is her
watch her
biggest
excitement.
snowstorm. Yeah.
Yeah. The closest thing we got to anything, I don't know if you remember that snow squall last year.
Yeah,
Everyone
right.
got
Uh-huh.
alerts on their phone. It was like emergency alert, snow squall coming. And then I remember we were out at this play gym and we were walking home and it was like it was like a blizzard for 2 minutes
Yeah, that was
basically.
wild.
But
Yeah.
that's what she got.
Oh, wait, okay, so I have a request then. Can you put her out in the snow today? Bundle her up and get some pictures of her playing in the snow, please. There's nothing cuter to me than a little kid all bundled up for the snow.
I did wash her really, really heavy jacket that she just got. So yeah, that's the plan as long as it's not too cold. And I will send pictures.
Okay, good.
Okay, Apple and Facebook are notoriously bitter Silicon Valley rivals, and their mutual dislike is now spilling into the open. Facebook took out a full page ad in major national newspapers this week to attack an upcoming privacy feature on Apple's iOS that Facebook says is going to harm small businesses. The company is also joining an antitrust lawsuit brought by Epic Games over Apple's App Store fees, charging that the App Store is a monopoly. The rivalry is really heating up. It's coming, of course, as all of these companies have major targets on their back from regulators.
Yeah, the irony of Facebook taking out an ad in a newspaper, where no one will see it because newspapers have effectively been destroyed by Facebook. I thought it's just like you can't make it up sometimes. But Apple, meanwhile, they've really been on a tear trying to highlight the iPhone's privacy features in advertisements, just in comments that Tim Cook has been making, and they're trying to make it clear that like any tracking that's being done, if you're a consumer, is coming from third-party developers like Facebook and not Apple itself. So that's sort of like the gist of this fight. I'm not sure how much it really matters for consumers, but it's just a good sense. I mean, these are the two of the most valuable companies in the world, right? And they straight up, hate each other at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, especially with the regulatory, environment as it is, as you said. All right, Jill. But before we move on, do you want to escape? Oh, well, I want to tell you about another
Yes.
great. Yeah, I knew you would say that. I want to tell you about another great podcast from our friends over at Group 9 Media. It's called Thrill List Explorers. You'll be able to travel around the world from the comfort of your own headphones. Join longtime Thrill List writer and host Will Fulton as he digs deep into the wanderlust-inducing travel stories and interviews people who are running out of pages in their passports. From professional skater Tony Hawk detailing his RV trip across the states to legendary journalist Dan Rather giving his picks for the best food in Austin, Texas. Thrillist breaks down the stories you'll want to tell your friends about, delivers actionable travel advice, and creates an inclusive experience that will inspire you to go around the globe, or at the very least to dream about it until you can once again safely do that, right?
Okay, back to the news. Major League Baseball says that it's going to retroactively elevate the Negro Leagues to Major League status, correcting a longtime oversight in the game's history. The Negro Leagues, which were in place from the 1920s until the Jackie Robinson era, produced some of the best baseball players in history, but their stats were never officially considered part of MLB history.
And that's going to now change. And the effects of this will alter the league's record books in significant ways that are actually probably going to be controversial. Willie Mays, for instance, he's going to get 17 hits added to his hitting record. There's no really that part's not really a big deal. But on the other hand, Ted Williams, he has the record for best batting average ever, 406. Well, Josh Gibson in the Negro Leagues, he hit a 441 in 1943. So Ted Williams may actually lose that record. This is going to be controversial. It's pretty interesting, though. Not to say that this wasn't sort of a long time coming for Major League Baseball. And I don't know if this is interesting to anybody else or just me. I'm not even a particular baseball nerd, but I think the idea of record books changing is just really, really fascinating, sort of a sign of the times.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm not I don't even know what half of what you just said means, in terms of these records. Yeah. However, I agree. It's this idea of we're really coming to terms with our own history and systemic racism and how it's fascinating. It really is fascinating, I gotta say.
And it's it's like anything else. Nothing is nothing is concrete, right? All things change. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I'm
feeling very philosophical today, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say you're waxing poetic at 6:30 in the morning, Carlo. Okay, HBO Max coming to Roku at long last. Warner Media and Roku have reached an agreement that's going to bring the streaming service to Roku's 46 million active users ahead of an onslaught of new Warner Brothers movies that will be debuting directly on the platform. And that begins next week with Wonder Woman 1984. It's going to drop on the app on Christmas Day.
Really good reviews,
baller
by the way.
Move.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, do you have a Roku? How do you watch stuff?
I have straight up cable because I'm cool. I'm in the burbs, and I also have an Apple TV. I have Fire TV. We're kind of we splurge on streaming, Carlo.
I mean, I think if there's one thing you should, it's probably that, right? We have an old Apple TV, but it's really starting to do that thing that all Apple products do after a few years, where it just decides to stop working. So I'm thinking about a Roku. If anybody out there has any suggestions for one of these things, I'm all ears because I'm in the market. But yeah, this is a big deal. Roku obviously is huge. HBO Max has been a major sort of blind spot in their distribution. On a related story that we've been following, I just wanted to if you'll indulge me for a second on this. Warner Brothers continues just to see an extreme amount of fallout from that decision, Jill, that you and I have been talking about, to smash the theatrical window. A lot of Hollywood is pretty much in open revolt against that studio now, and its parent company, AT&T, just working overtime on damage control. This is one of those things where I've sort of shifted my thinking, and partially it's because one of our fabulous listeners, Olivia, who works in the entertainment industry, emailed and really, told me where I was wrong and showed me the light here. the long and short of it, we don't need to get into it big time, but the long and short of it is that Warner Brothers really they didn't even try to negotiate with the studios when they made that big decision a couple weeks ago. And I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Movies are sort of crafted for the big screen, right? And it's a big deal to just kind of yank that away from these people who have been working on these pictures for, months or years in some cases. So this is a tough one. It's a really interesting story to me, at least. I think the potential benefit to consumers still exists by having these big movies out on streaming on the day that they would have been in theaters. But Warner's just did not do a good job here, and they're paying for it. I've actually even heard rumors through the grapevine that there's a potential actor boycott against the studio, which would be
Really?
a big deal if that happened. Yeah.
What would Tom Cruise say? His opinion is the one I want these days.
I would like to hear his thoughts on this, but we haven't. He's been too busy, beating the hell out of crew members for not standing 6 feet apart.
Wait, so I guess that it sounds like part of the problem here was the way in which AT&T and Warner went about this. That perhaps if they had opened it up as a discussion instead of just dictating this to the movie producers and whatnot, that maybe it would have gone over better. I always quote the Pivot podcast, which I listen to for business and tech news, and they think this was like the most brilliant move that Warner Brothers could have done. Yeah, I mean, the thinking was just that the movie theater experience has been, especially now, it's just not really that safe, and it hasn't really advanced much besides big, stadium seating. The actual experience, except for maybe Alamo, what is that?
Alamo Drafthouse, yeah.
Alamo Drafthouse, yeah, Alamo Drafthouse, where you go and you can get a meal, which is a different experience entirely. But other than that, like these movie theaters haven't really, the actual experience has just not kept up with the time. So the thinking is that maybe this will force the hand to, this industry to rethink itself even after the pandemic. I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
I see that, yeah.
But I appreciate, I guess, like I think we need to hunker down. I think this virus is out of control. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that at a certain point, I don't think I don't know. I wouldn't be going to an indoor movie theater right now. That's just not something. Right, yeah. And the whole time I'd be monitoring anybody who was like daring to cough or eating without their mask on, obviously, whatever. So to me, I even think it's weird when I get emails from retailers who say you can only get a deal in store. So it's like, okay, why do I have to go in store right now? I kind of resent it because it's like, why are you encouraging people? I get it. It's part of their business model, but I mean, I don't know. The real safe thing to do to get this country out of the pandemic before we get a vaccine is to really hunker down.
Oh, I think that's for sure. And look, Warner Media, not to belabor this, but Warner Media has said, look, we're just doing this for, because of the pandemic. The pandemic has changed everything. But I think pretty much people in Hollywood are like, that's not true. Like once you do this thing, you said it great when we did this story a couple weeks ago. You're like, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it doesn't go back in. But I think if they were just like, look, we're doing this because of the coronavirus, and we're going to go back to the way things are normal as soon as everybody's vaccinated, I think that probably would have been maybe a little different.
And I think you have to let the customer lead here, right? We'll see where there's pent up demand. I, for one, I happen to like, to tell you the truth, going to the movies. I, for one, probably will go back into the theater as soon as the pandemic is over. There's going to be huge pent up demand for travel, for theme parks. If people would rather watch your movie, though, from the comfort of their own couch, maybe that's just an awakening. I mean, we've talked about this in the news industry, right? If somebody doesn't want to watch us at a specific time, if they want to be able to listen to their podcast when they, imagine we were like, sorry, you can only listen to the podcast live at 6 a.m. That's when we do it. You have to meet customers where they are.
Yeah, no, I mean, from your lips, I totally agree with you on that. Yep.
Finally, for the first time, the Times Square Ball will be ringing in a new year without crowds of revelers below. The plans are out for the New Year's Eve celebrations at the so-called crossroads of the world. So spectators won't be allowed in, but TV broadcasts will go on with a focus on recognizing essential workers. Jason Derulo, Goo Goo Dolls, BB Rexa among the performers, but the highlight is likely to be Gloria Gaynor, The legendary disco singer, who's now 77, is coming out of retirement to perform I Will Survive, her classic hit all about perseverance, as a way to ring in 2021. Whoever came up with that idea,
Brilliant.
brilliant.
Right? Perfect. I love it. Perseverance. What a great word. I feel like I'm nominating that for our Need to Know word of the year. This year has just been about perseverance. And I think that's going to be such a great thing to see. Just a great way to ring it out. The Times Square New Year's Eve thing, I'm sure that we've talked about this in past years, but it is something I appreciate, like the spectacle of it, but I've just never understood the allure of people who come here and want to do that. You've never done it, have you?
No, never.
I mean, I respect people who do.
Mostly because
It's cool,
I don't like
but
crowds. I don't want to stand
yeah.
in the cold.
Well, and you can't even go to the bathroom. I think a lot of people come and they don't realize that, like, you're basically standing in a pen for, 12 hours in the freezing cold. Like, and it's so anticlimactic at the end. But hey, you know what? Whatever floats your boat. If that makes you happy, look, we need tourists, so I hope as
It's
many people
good,
come
clean
as
fun,
possible.
Carlo.
Yeah, it is, right. Good, clean fun.
I know, but I think that this is a good idea. And just New York City, my heart breaks for New York. I pray that this city is going to be able to come back full force. As we say, cities evolve, places evolve. But my heart goes out to just the businesses, the people who make money off that, the street vendors who count on thousands of people coming to sell them hot pretzels and water and
the
cocoa
glasses.
and
I mean,
whatever else.
that's a great point. I mean, like Times Square New Year's has like a whole, there's a whole like shadow industry of, people who sell like the hats and stuff. Like they're not going to make any money this year. It's just the effects of this are just unbelievable.
And really quickly, it's funny you say perseverance as our word of the year. I've never had a year where my goal is to just live. And
Yes.
like when I think about what do I want for 2020 and 2021, where like the baseline is just like, I want to be alive and I want my family to be alive 6 months from now. That's it. Like that's all I want actually at this point. And I've never felt that way before. I mean,
Doesn't it feel
normally
good?
you dream a little
Doesn't it
bigger.
feel good? Doesn't it feel good in some ways? Because isn't that really all that it's about when it comes down to it? That that's one of the things I think that this year has really put things into perspective. It is exactly what you just nailed it, right? And it's what I've been saying. I know I've been annoying about the whole like, oh, I didn't get COVID today, so it was a success. But like, as bad as this year has been, if you were able to make it through and the people, your people are all okay, then life goes on, and we did it.
All right, Carlo, on those words, we're going to end. That's what you need to know for Thursday, December 17th.
See you tomorrow, guys.